All right. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize. I have the camera at an odd angle because, well, it's not an odd angle. I just shoot this angle, my show, For Canon's Sake. We recently shot an episode. You can go check it out. It is live on all major digital platforms. The full video, if you want to actually see Julia and Eric Lewald, I interviewed them. They were the, one was a showrunner. The other was a writer as well for the X-Men, the animated series, the original one. And I talked to them about their experience with that. It's a great interview. So about an hour long. You can go check that out. But that's the reason why the camera's like that. I haven't yet set it up. But I'm on a Twitter hiatus. Really, only thing I'm posting on Twitter is, dare I say, well, really it's just my videos and streams and stuff like that is all I'm posting. So it's not a hiatus, but I'm not actively on it. But I went to check the numbers on the recent show that we did, and I saw all of my mentions flooded about this video that Marvel put out, trailer for the new Warriors. And I was like, I first of all, I didn't know there was going to be a thing. Obviously, maybe this is why this is a trailer. For those that aren't familiar with the new Warriors, you have it's a lot of good things that have come out of that. Ironically enough, I was reading Night Thrasher here. This is 1993. I have a bunch of new Warriors books. I'm not going to act like they're my most favorite team. I'm knowledgeable on them, though. But when I saw the pictures that people were showing me about some of these characters that are supposedly involved in this, I don't know why the colors just changed like that. I'm just not seeing that the color changed. I have no idea what happened. What the lighting's doing something weird. My bad. Nonetheless, I thought it was a joke. Now, I watched it up until this particular point where the writer first starts speaking. And we're going to watch this together. When first starts speaking about the actual show, it's about a minute and a half more. I haven't watched anything after that. Just when they introduced some of the characters. Or the first character, Trailblazer. Hold on, let's go to it. So let's check this out. Let's see what this is all about.
That we're introduced to is Trailblazer. She's a group home and foster kid who is volunteering at
Let's just continue.
At a senior center when this mysterious threat shows up and Night Thrasher runs to the rescue. And because she helps him, she ends up in the crosshairs of this new outlawed law. And she inherited from her grandfather a magic backpack of divine origin. We picked the name Trailblazer because she's somebody who charges into action. She knows that she can do some good with this, mysterious gift that she's been given. Screen Time is a internet kid taken to its sort of logical conclusion. As a youth, he was exposed.
That's not an actual like a bad. It's on the nose, but Screen Time isn't a terrible name for a modern character. That's actually a good job.
To his grandfather's experimental internet gas, and that has patched him permanently into the World Wide Web. The word Screen Time is only ever used in a sort of restrictive sense. And because we're doing a story about teenage rebels, a lot of the names are about teens fighting against labels that are put on them. So with Screen Time, we liked the idea that he has infinite screen time. Snowflake and Safe Space are the twins. And
see, this is what I thought was a joke, okay? I thought this was a joke. When I saw the screenshots, I was like, there's no way that this Marvel is going to do this, right? Marvel has had their on-the-nose efforts, okay? I've talked about them. I've done numerous videos on some of their current books and some of the weird stuff that happens in them. But this, when I saw people talking about it, I thought it was a joke. Apparently, it's not.
And their names are very similar to Screen Time. It's this idea that these are terms that get thrown around on the internet that they don't see as derogatory, to take those words and kind of wear them as badges of honor.
Bro, well, look, it's I don't know what like, where do I start? Where do I start with this? It's like Marvel is is watching my videos and doing everything out of spite, right? Now, I know that's probably not the case. I know they know I exist, but that's probably not the case, okay? But it sounds like they're doing it out of spite. And I've discussed this idea in previous videos and reading some of these books and how some events that have happened. I've talked about even in War of the Realms with that event where She-Hulk is fighting this troll who uses some of the same rhetoric that I've used. And when people say that the SJWs have infiltrated Marvel, right? When they do things like that, it's showing us that that's the case, where you're getting people that are trying to take what exists in the real world and simply replicate it and put it in like a comic book form. Now, that's not to say that you can't speak on real world positions or real world topics and have that influence. However, like Stan Lee said he would do it under laying the plot, this is so on the nose that there's nothing else. Like, you can't sit up here. These guys that act as if folks like myself are these conspiracy theorists. You can't look at this now and say, okay, this is a conspiracy. You can't. We were right. That's what they're attempting to do, right? And they're taking these terms that get thrown at safe space, snowflake, generally coming as an insult from one side of the political spectrum to the other. And they're trying to wear it as a badge. And they're telling you where their politics are. They're telling you exactly where their politics are. And this is, I talked about how you could even look, it was that a Marvel 1000 book, and it had those like 2-page little spreads, and it had all these authors and stuff on it that were part of that deal. And I challenged you guys, I said, go look at all the names that are part of this, and just because everybody thinks that it's up to them to wear their political preference on their sleeve, which whatever, that's your business, that's fine. I do it too. I'm willing to bet that there's a political monopoly in that regards. And it was. Like, you can look at them, there may be people that you just can't find, and there's not a lot of them in terms of their political leaning, but everybody that has a political leaning public, like on their Twitter or something, so for the most part, out of all of those names, hundreds of names, they're for the most part leftists. So when he's telling you, the writer's telling you, hey, we're writing this, we want to take these terms, these modernized terms that have been thrown around, and we want them to use it as a badge of honor. Dog, they just named they just named two characters, Snowflake and Safe Space. Screen time, I would have gave them, right? I would have gave them that, right? It's a little on the nose, but I'd have gave them that. There gives some creativity that you can maybe do with that. But when you're doing it with like every character, and then you're using on the nose terms like that, come on, bro.
Honor. Safe Space is kind of a big, burly, sort of stereotypical jock. He can create force fields, but he can only trigger them if he's protecting somebody else. Snowflake is non-binary and goes...
Oh my God, what am I watching, man? What, like, this is a parody. This is a parody, man. This is Marvel. So they named him Safe Space. He's a dude that is, it's typical jock. Yeah, he's typical jock that's non-binary. Bro, what is going, what?
else. Snowflake is non-binary and goes by they, them. Snowflake.
Oh, no, Snowflake is, excuse me. Not, okay, I got it, my bad. Excuse me. So Safe Space is a jock. It's make this even worse. So Safe Space is a jock. He's a typical jock, just wearing pink.
Snowflake is non-binary.
It looks kind of
only he can sort of stereotype. Safe Space is kind of a big, burly, sort of stereotypical jock.
Stereotypical. This doesn't look like a stereotypical jock. Okay, so you did a bad job in that regard.
He can create force fields, but he can only trigger them if he's protecting somebody else. Snowflake is non-binary and goes by they, them. Snowflake.
And of course they have to lead with that, right? They have to lead with that. Like, look at us, we're signaling here. Look at the pronouns. They got the pronouns, right? Like they, them. Like, what the fuck? This is this is what we say that this has become, right? I talked about this with the whole Marvel Boy thing. I thought they were taking shots at it. But this is something that they're, like, it's just... Oh, of course they have darker skin, by the way, of course.
It has the power to generate...
Got to check as many boxes as they possibly could with this character.
Individual crystallized snowflake-shaped shurikens. The connotations of the word snowflake in our culture right now are something fragile. And this is a character who is turning it into something sharp. Snowflake is the person who has the more offensive power, and Safe Space is the person who has the more defensive power. The idea was that they would mirror each other and complement each other. E negative is the goth kid. When he was a baby.
Now before we continue, and there's only a minute left, this is absolutely terrible. Okay, a terrible idea, and I don't want to we can't undermine that, right? And I don't think anybody is, but look, this is a pretty big deal. Like, what is this? This Marvel reaches a low with a book or something, and something that happens in it, and then they just like they're trying to outdo themselves. And then, like I said earlier, you get these weirdos in the comment section on my Twitter thinking like I'm some sort of raging 29-year-old conspiracy theorist. And it generally comes from people that this book is trying to appeal to. People that don't generally read books. People that generally aren't going to be at the comic book shop every Wednesday. People that don't have a pull list. People that will maybe get this first issue of the book so they can show it off on Instagram or whatever social media, and then that's it, right? They may get issue 2, but that's it. They're not going to keep up with it or anything like that. And if it is any success, if it sees any success, it's going to be initially, because I can tell you right now, this book is it's not on the radar of folks like that you would think as your typical audience, right, of comic book guys, like your general audience or more so your general consumer. And we discussed this with the era that Birds of Prey made. We discussed this with the era that some of these other books have made in terms of who they're trying to appeal to. And it's one thing to try to bring in another demographic of people to buy your books, but when you actively have a heavy political leaning and you're actively pushing out a certain demographic of people that is your core demographic, it's always a mistake. Your core consumer, you pull them out of it and you try to appeal to these guys that generally don't buy comic books. And then it fails, and then they're like, well, it was my fault or something like that. Dude, nobody's gonna buy this, right? Right? Like, well, I won't say nobody, but people buy this, but this is not gonna be something that just hits. This just does nothing but solidify what folks like myself and others have long stated about Marvel and the direction that they're trying to head, and they're trying to. They got these guys who are trying to lead with their personal social agendas and their social premises. They want to beat you over the head with like, this is as on the nose as it gets. It doesn't get any more on the nose than what this is. It doesn't get any more on the nose. This is why he leads with, okay, non-binary goes by they, them. Okay. Like, that's why they lead with that. Like that's part of the trailer. Like they think that that's like this attribute that's gonna get you in here to go support this. And like I say, some of the weirdos that don't generally buy comics may be clapping and praising them for doing this. But just like I talked about it in I don't know how many videos, social media is not necessarily the measure for certain consumers of certain industries. Just the reality of the situation. You'd have thought Birds of Prey was going to be this hit. You'd have thought Bernie Sanders was going to knock it out the park last Tuesday, something of that nature, or the Tuesday before, because you got all this weak Bernie girl talking about no okay boomer, all this other stuff, and the numbers look like this, and the retweets look, the million views, all these retweets, Instagram likes, and stuff of that nature, and then they don't actually go. It doesn't mean that it's going to turn into a consumer. I know it's a little different in the political landscape, but it doesn't mean like they're going to turn into a consumer, right? That's not how it works. It doesn't ever work like that. And they are very loud minorities, very retweet happy, very like happy, very share happy, but that doesn't mean that they're going to actually go out of their way, because they're generally not a part of this culture. They try to rip off of it in terms of or capitalize on it and maybe appeal to these weirdos. They'll use this platform, they'll use the platform to appeal to these weirdos, but generally the consumer, and I've always challenged you guys to go look at that, they're not of this ilk. They're not of this cut from this cloth. Just go to your local comic book shop on Wednesday morning. Not to say that you may not see weirdos that this may appeal to, but the guys that have the pull list generally every week, that are having spending hundreds of dollars in the actual shop, it's not these types. It's not these types. It's not. They're clearly trying to make this book appeal to those types, and it's gonna fail. It's gonna fail in the sense that, and what I mean by that, and I gotta be careful with that, it's not gonna see any like long-term sustainability.
Is the person who has the more offensive power. Mirror each other. Viv is the goth kid. When he was a baby, he got a rogue life-saving blood transfusion, we assume from Michael Morbius, and now he has a very similar look and very similar vampire powers. B negative also is obviously a pun. It's a blood type, which is great for a vampire character. And it's also a proud ownership of the idea of having a bad attitude. I want the people who read Our New Warriors to feel all of the excitement that they felt if they read the 90s one. We want it to have big, colorful characters, personality clashes, romance, a diverse cast, which is something that the New Warriors titles have always strived to make a priority. Every New Warriors comic has always felt like a reflection of the year that it came out. And,
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I disagree with it in the emphasis, right? In the books that I've read, that's not anything that I've ever picked up as like that's like the heavy emphasis, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't an emphasis, but they don't make it appear like that. Like it's like, all right, well, it's trying to be reflective of the time. And by the way, these types are minorities, like very huge minorities on the internet. Not on the internet, in real life, excuse me. On the internet, they may not seem like that. But I would disagree with the assessment that definitely when you look, I should have grabbed some of my New Warriors books. But I'm not gonna sit here and act like this book is like this it was always just uber popular, but it's not. It's not what he's trying to make it seem as if, okay, this is represented this and that type of person, and that was the whole sort of, no, that wasn't really what you got from New Warriors. It was just a cool kind of hip. It was obviously trying to appeal to, you can say, more of a younger audience. I will absolutely concede that. I will concede that. But it wasn't, whether it was hit or miss, and Night Thrasher was probably one of the better characters to come out of that. Whether it was hit or miss, or kind of front that, excuse me. But whether it was hit or miss, it didn't seem like it was actively trying to push out a particular demographic, which is what this
personality
seems to do.
Clashes, romance, a diverse cast, which is something that the New Warriors
like
title.
You're using all of these buzz terms, man, and Look, it's not a conspiracy, and now that we see this coming to fruition, you should have long confirmed that. But for the weirdos that don't read comic books and think that I just make the videos and I'm just over exaggerating things, I'm gonna need you to shut the hell up.
Have always strived to make a priority. Every New Warriors comic has always felt like a reflection of the year that it came out. And I don't think we're worried about being dated. I think we're way more interested about it being now.
Like this looks like something that I would think the weirdos who are raging SJWs that want to get into comic book stuff and they start doing their own like bad independent comics. This is what I envision. But I would think they would have a little more integrity, okay, to not do something this stupid. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be pointing to this video over and over and over and over again. Because what it does is confirm everything that I've long said. They already jumped the shark. They'd already crossed into the territory that I was like, these books are getting very bad. And they're like social justice Twitter leftists in book form, in show form, when it comes to even like, that's, I think, a lot more of the DC stuff on that element when it comes to like TV, but certainly here. In the mainstream comic books, Marvel has been going in this direction. But this is as on the nose as they've ever been. They named two characters, Snowflake and Safe Space. I don't even know what else to say. I don't know what else to say.